Section 1. The Significance of Moorish Science, Eurocentrism in U.S. Code Title 25. Title 25 of the United States Code casts a long shadow over the lives of Moorish Americans. This body of law, meant to govern federal relations with tribes, is deeply flawed. It is rooted in outdated and Eurocentric narratives. These narratives paint a distorted picture of the true history of the land. They minimize the true antiquity and complexity of Moorish peoples in this land. Title 25 clings to the Bering Strait theory. This theory suggests that humans first entered the Americas a mere 13,000 years ago. This timeline has been used to justify the displacement of indigenous peoples and justify denying claims of the Moorish Science Temple of America. It falsely portrays Moors as recent migrants along with the black slave narrative instead of the original inhabitants of this land before the modern-day Indians. This narrow view ignores a wealth of archaeological and scientific evidence. It perpetuates a harmful and inaccurate narrative about our past. This Eurocentric lens has real consequences. It limits tribal sovereignty and interferes with expected inheritance of the Moorish people. It restricts our ability to govern ourselves and protect our cultural heritage, land, and the intent of the ancient forefathers. It perpetuates the cycle of injustice that indigenous, so-called blacks and Moorish peoples have faced for centuries. It is time for a fundamental change. Title 25 must be re-evaluated and rewritten. We must move beyond the shadows of colonialism and embrace a more truthful and just future. The Moorish Science Temple of America asserts that Moors were present in America before modern Native American tribes. This perspective challenges the conventional narratives and calls for a broader understanding of our shared history. Section 2. Beyond the Bering Strait Doctrine, Unearthing the Truth. The Bering Strait Doctrine, long accepted as fact, is crumbling under the weight of scientific discovery. Archaeologists and geneticists are revealing a far more complex and ancient history of human presence in the Americas. Sites like Monte Verde in Chile challenge the traditional timeline. They push back the date of human arrival to at least 18,500 years ago. The work of geologist Virginia Stein McIntyre further dismantles the Bering Strait narrative. Her research at the Hueyatlaco site in Mexico reveals evidence of human occupation dating back over 250,000 years. This evidence, though controversial, cannot be ignored. It forces us to reconsider everything we thought we knew about the peopling of the Americas. These findings have profound implications for indigenous peoples. They confirm what Moorish histories have long maintained. We as Moors have been here since time immemorial. Our deep connection to this land is not a matter of recent migration or slave shipment, but of ancient ancestry. The Bering Strait Doctrine, with its artificial timeline, has been used to undermine our sovereignty and justify our oppression. If widely accepted, Stein McIntyre's findings could have significant implications for Title 25 of the United States Code, which governs the legal and political framework for Native American tribes. This could lead to revisiting treaties, land claims, and ancestral rights, as the timeline of who is considered indigenous to the Americas might be reinterpreted. It might complicate current tribal boundaries and rights, as other groups could make claims to being the original inhabitants of certain regions. Groups asserting ties to these early populations could potentially pursue legal recognition or advocate for inclusion in federal benefits and rights afforded to Native American tribes. Such claims could also challenge the Indian Civil Rights Act framework, which is designed to protect the civil liberties of federally recognized tribal members within their tribal governments. Stein McIntyre's findings could expand the definition of indigenous peoples, requiring a redefinition of indigenous in both a legal and cultural sense. This could reignite debates about Aboriginal title under U.S. law, potentially affecting ongoing legal claims under Title 25 U.S.C. If new groups or identities emerge based on findings like Stein McIntyre's, there could be demands for the Indian Civil Rights Act to expand its protections or acknowledge new categories of indigenous peoples, and recognize Moorish Americans were here before the so-called alien. These developments could fundamentally reshape how the U.S. government interacts with native tribes and other groups claiming ancestral ties to the Americas. The Moorish Science Temple of America asserts that Moors were present in America before modern Native American tribes, adding another layer to the complex history of human presence in the Americas. These claims, if substantiated, could further challenge existing narratives and legal frameworks, potentially leading to new discussions about the recognition and rights of Moorish Americans. Section 3. Broken Promises. Title 25 and the Constitution, logic and reason. Title 25 stands in stark contradiction to the principles enshrined in the United States Constitution. The Equal Protection Clause guarantees equal protection under the law. Yet, Title 25 singles out indigenous peoples for different and often detrimental treatment. Our treaties, which the Constitution recognizes as the supreme law of the land, are often ignored or misinterpreted when it comes to Title 25. The First Amendment guarantees freedom of religion. However, Title 25 has been used to suppress our traditional spiritual practices and beliefs. Our sacred sites are desecrated, our ceremonies disrupted, all under the guise of federal law. This is a blatant violation of our fundamental rights. The Due Process Clause ensures fair treatment under the law, but Title 25 often subjects Moorish peoples to arbitrary and unjust decisions. Our lands are taken, our resources exploited, and our voices silenced, often without meaningful consultation or consent. This is a betrayal of the very principles upon which this nation was founded. The Moorish Science Temple of America asserts that Moors were present in America before modern Native American tribes, adding another layer of complexity to the issue. Recognizing the historical presence and contributions of the Moors challenges the narrative and legal frameworks that Title 25 is built upon. Section 4. A Path to Reconciliation. Reimagining Federal Indian Law. The time for empty promises and half-hearted apologies is over. The United States government must take concrete steps to address the injustices enshrined in Title 25. The first step is a complete and immediate review of this outdated body of law. This review must be conducted in full consultation with indigenous nations. Our voices must be heard, our perspectives respected. The Treaty of Peace and Friendship, signed in 1787, acknowledged the sovereignty of indigenous nations. This treaty, still valid today, must guide the revision of Title 25. We are not simply wards of the state, but distinct political entities with inherent rights to self-determination. This recognition must be at the heart of any meaningful reform. The scientific evidence is clear. Moorish history in this land stretches back millennia. The United States must formally recognize the existence of earlier populations in the Americas, including the claims of the Moorish Science Temple of America. This aligns with the MSTA's goal of empowering its members to reclaim their historical and cultural identity through informed, systematic methods. Conclusion. The MSTA's inclusion of the term science in its title reflects its commitment to a systematic and disciplined exploration of truth across multiple domains, including history, law, and anthropology. It is not merely a spiritual organization but a multifaceted institution that uses science, broadly defined, to educate, empower, and advance the understanding of Moorish heritage. This makes it highly relevant to discussions like those raised by Virginia Steen McIntyre's findings, as both aim to challenge and expand the mainstream narrative of human origins and history.